Good morning. I'm the sergeant in the Miami Police Department that's been dispatched to a very critical event involving domestic violence. It's an event that we train for, we prepare for, and I feel that myself and my officers are fully equipped to carry out the mission of the police department, which is to safely mitigate this event. Now, I know that there's already 2 officers on scene. It's approximately 2 in the afternoon. I'm extremely concerned because there could be buses bringing kids from home. There could be kids coming home from school. There may be other people in that area as well. Now, I'm making a mental evaluation of the area. Is this a residential area? Are there apartment buildings? Are there trees? What's my access? What are my inbound and outbound egress areas from that scene? I'm also considering which officers are on scene, their tenure, their seniority, their experience dealing with these high-risk, low-frequency events, which are domestic violence calls. Now, I'm going to put myself on the alarm and start responding. I'm going to notify dispatch that I'm en route. Now, en route, I'm taking the safest, most efficient route there. I'm monitoring the radio. I'm asking dispatch, how many calls have they received? Is this call come in via landline from inside the house? Did it come in by 911? Does 911 have any information? Who is the subject? Do we have a background? So I'm going to notify our crime statistical unit if they have any kind of information to pull the profile on this person. Is he a known offender? Is he a psychiatric patient? Do we have any kind of intelligence from his background? I'm also going to establish contact with the officers that are there and confirm that they're in a safe position, taking cover behind their car, using appropriate protective equipment such as shields, vests, long rifles, or any other equipment that we have available to us. Sometimes the best cover is just distance to move far enough away. Now, once I arrive, I'm going to establish face-to-face contact with the incident commander, which should be the senior officer on scene. I'm going to determine a conditions, actions, and needs report in order to start establishing an incident action plan based on a risk-benefit analysis. And I'll do this by gathering information. How many people are inside? Has he been able to make contact? How much information does he have? If we've not made contact with the subjects inside the house, we're going to go to the neighbors next door. Who lives there? How many people are there? Do children live there? I'm looking for cars in the driveway, toys in the yard, any kind of information that I can find. Now, it's important that we continue gathering this information, and I, as a sergeant responding with the full resources and backup and training in the Miami Police Department, will take over this incident. I'll notify it on the dispatch and tactical channel so everybody knows I'm in command. I'll establish a command post out of danger's way in a clear location where I can see at least 2 sides of the incident. I'll name myself Allopatic Command, and I'll make sure everybody's aware that I am now the incident commander. I'll establish a command staff consisting of a public information officer, a safety officer, and a liaison to liaise with other outside agencies. Now, I've been informed that someone ran out of the house. Apparently, one of my officers distracted the subject, and a woman has run out of the back of the house. My first concern at this point is to secure the woman and start interrogating her and finding out as much information as I can. Primary, of course, is her well-being. Is she injured? Does she need to be transported? Make sure fire rescue is here to efficiently and swiftly take care of her injuries and transport her to the hospital with a motor's escort if she needs to go to the trauma center. Now, I'm going to call the domestic violence unit and the special victims unit. And I'm also going to call our detectives to start getting more information. So we're going to ask her, are there any bombs in the house, any explosives, any hazardous materials? Is this person under medication? Does he have a psychiatric condition? We're going to gather all that information so I can disseminate it to my officers. Now, in order to effectively manage the scene, I need to call the appropriate resources to the scene. So I'm going to start calling motors, and their primary mission is going to be the perimeter of the area, securing the inner perimeter, which will be 1,000 feet, and the outer perimeter, which will be secured by public service aides, which will be 2 blocks in all directions. I'm also going to notify SWAT. I need to notify them quickly because they take up to an hour to muster and get everybody together and come on scene. Plus, they like to work slow and methodical. They like to pull plans of the area, maps, and make an approach that's been calculated and well thought out because of the risk involved. In addition, one of their assets in the SWAT team is a hostage negotiator, which has a higher level of training, higher level of ability to deal with these things. I'm also going to call CIT, which is our crisis intervention team, in case this is a crisis patient that needs more help. Now, I'm also going to call our robbery unit. Our robbery unit is a unit that handles investigations whenever a hostage has been taken. And in this case, we had a hostage that has now escaped, so they're going to be the ones processing that. We're going to call the crime scene investigative unit in order to start taking pictures, photographs, sketches of the area to build a case for successful prosecution down the road. We're going to have at least 3 units of fire rescue. I want 1 to transport the victim that's been injured, 1 to address the safety of my officers, and 1 in case the subject becomes injured during the apprehension. Now, an effective incident commander always determines his incident priorities. My incident priorities here is the life safety first of my officers, then of anybody else involved in the incident, namely all the neighbors in the area which I will have to evacuate, and I'll explain shortly how I'm going to conduct the evacuations. And I'm going to conserve as much property as I can, trying to move cars out of the way if they have to call wreckers to tow cars, or make sure that we don't cause any damage of any other areas. Now, while this incident's going on, I'm going to make sure that all calls for service in my area are being handled by adjacent sector sergeants, and I'm also going to do a staff notification. The staff needs to be made aware of this in case the incident escalates. Now, I've established an organizational structure following my NIMS component, and as we know in NIMS can be expanded or contracted as a scene unfolds. Now, at this point, let me tell you what my strategic goals are. One of my goals is a perimeter control, and I've told you I'm going to have motors, uniformed officers set up the inner perimeter, which will be approximately 1,000 feet in all directions, and I'm going to have non-essential personnel, public service aides, establish a 2-block perimeter on the outside. Another one of my strategic goals is subject apprehension. We have to get the subject out of here. We're going to follow least lethal to most lethal processes, and I'll be explaining that shortly. Now, another one of my strategic goals is evidence preservation. So I have CSI here. I have our public information officer also setting up a media staging area 2 blocks away to disseminate appropriate information. At this point, as my officers continue arriving and I continue developing my incident command system, we need to start taking tactical positions. So I'm going to assign a sector sergeant from an adjoining area to a group. I'm going to assign him 5 officers. His task is going to be to evacuate all homes in the immediate perimeter on all 4 sides of the occupancy. And once they effect that evacuation, they're also going to protect the perimeter in case the subject tries to flee out of the back of the home. In addition, I'm going to have K9 on standby. In case the subject flees, we can chase him with the dogs, follow his scent, and I'm also going to have aviation en route. Aviation is going to go above to give us an overhead picture of the view. And I'm going to notify our Office of Emergency Management, which has a command bus that can take a live feed from the helicopter. If this incident were continued to be a long drawn out incident, we can set up command in the command bus and get live feeds of what's going on in the incident. I'm also going to notify Florida Power and Light, which is our electric company. If this incident were to progress, we're going to shut the power in the home to make the home less tenable once we assure there are no victims, kids, children, or anybody else in the home. So at this point, we're going to establish connection with the victim. We can use our bullhorns, we can use our PAs on the radio, or if we can do it from a position of cover, establish face-to-face communication with the subject, as long as we are in a safe position of cover. We're going to ask the subject, we're going to identify ourselves clearly as law enforcement, and we're going to ask him to come out of the home with his hands up and drop any weapons that he has. And we're going to give him the appropriate amount of time. We're going to ask him on multiple occasions. We're going to explain the consequences of his actions. We're going to let him know that whatever situation he's having, this is not the best way to handle it. We're going to give him time. We are not going to risk our people unless there is a life safety. There's children in the home, babies in the home. If he starts shooting, then we're going to take more aggressive action. But right now, the only risk I have is to my police officers. So I'm not willing to assume great risk. Now, at some point, we're going to say this is enough time, and now we're going to take a tactical position. At this point, the SWAT supervisor will come. He'll create a SWAT tactical group. Their mission typically is to cover the flanks, cover the perimeter. They have an entry team and an approach team, and they have what they call an apprehension team. So typically, they breach the front door. Again, they're coming in under protection. They make an approach, and they get them. They have a SWAT medic detail sitting in the background in case any of them are injured. Now, regardless of which method, whether the person comes out alone or not, we are going to take them out, and we're going to continue processing the scene. We're going to confirm there's no other obstacles, booby traps, bombs, hazardous materials, flammable liquids in the home. We are going to process the scene, handcuff him, make sure we pat him down. He's got no other weapons. And at this point, we're going to start breaking the scene down. So at this point, we can release the outer perimeter. We've held any school buses. If there was a school in the area, we would have done a lockdown of that school, would return the people to school. The PIO will make a statement, letting the public know that we're starting to return this to normal. We'll continue contracting our incident command system. We'll continue contracting our perimeter. This will be turned over to the robbery detail or the domestic violence unit, which will begin the prosecutorial process of gathering evidence. Now, on scene, I'll make sure all of my officers have had critical incident stress debriefing. If anybody's been injured, any apparatus, cars have been damaged, equipment needs to be replaced, we'll do that. The PIO will give the official media statement, and I will notify the administrative staff of what has occurred. We will also release calls for service in our zone and start releasing units to take calls. Back at the police station, I will confirm all reports are done, and an after-action report is ready per departmental orders in 72 hours. I will commend any officers that performed well and create schools and send this after-action report to the training division. I am extremely confident as a police sergeant in the City of Miami Police Department, this will successfully mitigate the incident and return that neighborhood back to normal.